Welcome back to another episode of Life and Pinstripes. I'm TJ Stolzenberg.
I'm James.
This is episode number 36.
Mike. Ford tough. I'm going to start off with something that's not tough. That would be the New York Football Giants.
They are not tough.
No.
They are gross. This week was the battle of gross versus grosser.
All right, I'm going to bleep this out. Actually, no, I'm not going to do it. This was a terrible game. This was like the battle of horrible teams.
You need to bleep yourself out when you talk about this team. Being a Giants fan, I grew up surrounded by Giants fans. You are so used to positive things happening. Whether you're a 9-7 team battling for a playoff spot, you still know they had that flair to possibly make a run for the Super Bowl.
They had fight. They had toughness. They were almost as tough as a Ford pickup truck. Now they're showing nothing of that.
As if we had advertising. But we don't. We also should mention before we get too into this, we are a Clovercrest Media Group podcast. Yeah.
That was anyway
to football.
Anyway, thank you.
This episode we're going to talk a little bit about football, a little bit about hockey, a little bit about basketball, but let's start with the pigskin.
Okay.
NFL season is quite underway. We're
about 10 weeks in.
Midway to all the way to
little past the midway.
We get to know who's who and what's what, and let's start off with how god-awful both New York football teams are.
Where does one begin?
One begins with an excellent stat that you found out for us. The most winning team in October in all of New York
is not the Giants. It's not the Jets.
It's not the Knicks.
It's not the Nets.
It's the Yankees.
The New York Yankees.
The Yankees had 5 wins in October. Who is it? 3 against?
3 against the Twins and 2 against the Astros. I know.
Anyways, I will say this. The 5 wins of the New York Yankees beat the likes of the Jets and Giants, both going over in their season opener. Yeah. And then the Knicks going 1-4 and the Nets going 1-3 in October. Now, that one win they had was against the Knicks.
Don't even get me started with
So somebody
Nets.
had to win there.
Of course, yes, the battle of the New York toilet bowl in the court.
I will say, interesting stuff kind of going on with the Nets. I don't want to get too much into basketball just yet.
Because you're going to get an angry James talking about the Nets and how they give up like 160 points a game, it feels like.
But Kyrie, man, he's like a disease. You got to strap on to the side of his contract. We will also be dealing with his nonsense. Things such like Antonio Brown brought towards us in the beginning of the football season. I heard a story. He refused to pose for a picture, a team picture in China.
Yep.
He refused to take his hat off. Now, that's before the season's even begun.
No, this was the preseason.
You already have drama like that happening. What's your take on the pretty boy?
Well, the pretty boy. First of all, the pretty boy has been outstanding on the court.
Kyrie.
I will have to say this. You know me, I was not the biggest fan of this move when they signed him.
But you're happy to have him.
On the court, but, on the court, if you can't...
On the court is all you can say because that's the only place he's good.
If you can't handle things off the court, get the hell off my team.
Off the court, he seems to think the earth is flat and ships fall off, and he thinks all these crazy things. Now, the media did ask...
Mood swings.
He's had mood swings. Now, let's say... People have asked Durant, who is his friend, people have asked him, hey, you think you could say something to him to maybe reel him in a little bit? And quoted, when asked this, Kevin Durant mentioned something like, Kyrie is an artist.
Oh, yes.
Remember this?
We've had this discussion.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Because artist is just another word for high-strung, high-maintenance. And guess
superficial.
What? It works in New York because the media's big, but you know what they'd rather have? Some W's. Some wins.
Yes, because apparently there's a lack of W's going on in... It's going to be a long few months until we get back into baseball season. Let's get started with that.
And we'll pull it back into football by talking about...
Yes, of course.
The gross versus grosser game. The New York Jets versus the New York Giants.
First of all, let me get started. First of all, Giants, shame on you for losing to the Jets. How does that happen?
It just so happens that the Miami Dolphins and the Bengals seem to be the worst team in football, and the Jets just lost to them. So losing to them,
Losing to the Dolphins, you figure this gives the Giants a little bit of hope that they
edge.
a little edge that they could actually beat them. But my good, first of all, before we get into the Giants and Jets, how about that Monday night embarrassment of a football game against the Cowboys, and they kept on blaming it on the black cat.
It was a few days after Halloween. Halloween's still in the air. The black cat runs onto the field, and we all know that's bad luck, like walking under a ladder.
Well, it was 13-12 at one point. Then I woke up. It was like 37-13 the final. I'm like, how the hell does this happen?
You know, here's the thing, man.
They just say it.
Just Giants football.
They're not playing like Giants. They're
What
playing
happened, man?
They're playing like this right now. They're playing like tinies.
You went and had yourself a couple of Super Bowls. All right, we all know that can't last. We all know the Eli story. It got a little gross at the end there. He couldn't move in the pocket. The man couldn't really play quarterback anymore.
Ben McAdoo benched him for Geno Smith.
Geno, West Virginia pride, Geno.
Is he still playing?
He's a backup somewhere.
But anyway, the point is that the Giants, ever since their Super Bowl win of 2012,
yeah,
that was them.
And now we have a little bit of hope bubbling up with Daniel Jones, who at first, number 6 pick in the draft, people were like, what? Why?
With all these other options, Dwayne Haskins was still on the table. They didn't even go for him.
It's not looking that hot either. I mean, granted, Dwayne Haskins is on the Redskins, and anybody's starting, even if Kyler Murray, I think, was on the Redskins, he couldn't really help them out.
I'm pretty sure the Redskins, for quarterback, they could pick up someone at the nation's capital and then throw him in as a quarterback.
The Rumpelstiltskins are just not that good. The NFC East
is not that good.
The Giants used to be the leader of that. Now you got the Eagles kind of battling the Cowboys, but it's also, I don't really believe in either of those teams.
No, because the Cowboys, Dak Prescott wants $40 million, but he's playing like he deserves $4.
No, I will strongly disagree with that. He should not be asking for $40 million. I will agree with that. But if you watch last night's Sunday night game against the Vikings, the Cowboys have one huge problem. They always come out flat. Literally, they're always down 14-0 to start the game, and then you have to ask them to turn on. Now, that is a bad sign of bad coaching, just undisciplined, not ready to go right at the kickoff.
Of course.
But Dak is actually playing very well. He put together a beautiful performance last night, and to no avail.
Maybe it's just me being a Cowboy hater.
Well, you're a Giant fan.
A huge Dak Prescott hater.
But you can definitely say that. He should not be asking for $40 million, dude. Also,
no quarterback should be asking for $40 million.
No, I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that do deserve that money, and let's look at Tom Brady real quick. The guy took less money so his team could sign better players, and that's what a winner does. Now, granted, he has a lot of things going on off the field where he makes a lot of money, and his wife is Gisele Bündchen, supposedly the hottest woman in the world.
Hottest woman in the world. Doesn't complain about anything. And
she makes money. So you look at that. You got Aaron Rodgers. He's making his money. But Dak, the idea of setting the market like that, it's just you gotta get it. You gotta get W's first, man.
It's unrealistic.
It's just and I get security in a sport of football where there ain't none. You could get hurt and it could go away at any minute. But look at this. You're on a Dallas Cowboys team that has hype every year. You just don't do it. You barely make the playoffs, and if you do, you don't win there.
It's the name, America's team. So, of course, they have that expectation every year, year in, year out. Yeah. Especially with Dak's rookie season, him and Ezekiel Elliott.
I love that.
They took everything by storm. You figured they were going to win a Super Bowl, but it seems like there's just been problems with the Cowboys.
And it's also like with America's team, like you're saying, they don't need that extra drama. You had this whole offseason deal with Ezekiel Elliott and re-signing him.
Who refused to play until he got signed, which, first of all, that's a crybaby move.
It's also tougher at the running back position. We understand they're way more likely they're getting hit every game.
Yeah, they're more likely to get a concussion.
More likely to have their injury end. And so we get the idea of security and money in that. But the way you go about it is to, be a professional. And the Dallas Cowboys just always are in the news for the wrong reasons. And that whole thing, granted, you signed him, but at the same time, I have this thing. Yes, you got to pay your big players. You just have to. It's just the way it goes. But whenever somebody signs a huge contract, they always have a big, I feel like, it's not that he's running any less hard or making worse cuts, but he's not put up any numbers.
So are you saying because he got this big contract, he's more just relaxed, and he's like, you know what? If I get, I don't know, one carry for like 3 yards, I'm still getting paid the big money.
Yeah,
something similar to that.
I feel like when players make a big sign and get that big paycheck, not that they pull it back, but that hunger, that hunt is not in there anymore.
Non-existent.
That wolf isn't in there, and it's not. I don't want to call him out and say he's playing terrible, but
he's not playing like
the average game.
No,
the average game for him so far is like 20 carries for 40 yards. I mean, he's getting stuffed.
That's gross.
He's gross, and so Dak has actually been primarily the biggest part of the offense. So I say good for you, Dak, but still, you got to win, man. You got to bring W's to that Jerry Jones, and he ain't going to sign those checks, man. So, nonetheless.
What about those offensive weapons? Like, he has Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper as well.
Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup guy, he's galloping around. And Gallup's a perfect name for a wide receiver, by the way, especially on a Cowboys team who ride horses and they gallop around. Come on, they should.
That's ironic, actually.
I should have run with that somewhere.
That's awesome.
Commercial. But nonetheless, I digress. There's only so much you can say about the NFC East.
The Bush League.
More like playing with the NFC Yeast infection. I'll say this.
I knew you were going to say that for a second.
Football is fun. Football's back. It's, I think, one of the best seasons in a while. I've been looking forward to it. And I'm going to transition over to the other side of the, well, not pond. There's no pond. There's got to be a small pond in between. But we're going to Pittsburgh. My Pittsburgh Steelers.
Why we go from the New York Tinies to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, with
the
legend of the Steel Curtain and the Big Ben Roethlisberger and all the drama.
And Mason Rudolph practically dying for like 6 months.
He almost died.
Yeah.
He got annihilated.
He almost died like this, pretty much.
For those of you, yes, exactly like that. And his middle finger was actually up. There was a game where he got hit square and just his lights were out.
I saw that video as soon as you mentioned that. I'm like, ooh.
It was bad. He got hit so hard that his body stiffened up and stayed in the same position when it hit the ground. That is bad. That is scary. And you never want to see that. But little Duck comes in for their third string quarterback. I don't know why they call him Duck. I don't get it. And I still don't get it.
Does he quack across the field?
Devlin Hodges? Duck Devlin Hodges? I don't get it. But anyways, maybe he's an Oregon Duck. Maybe. I don't know. That's bad of me for not knowing. Because it's been hard following the Steelers this year. It's just been hard.
Hey, at least you guys are above 500.
Until the last 4 weeks.
Yes.
We're 4-0 in our last 4 games. Granted, we've played garbage and garbage tech and garbage state. But we just beat the Rams yesterday.
First of all,
the Rams, they're not having the best year, but we finally got a respectable win.
What the hell happened to the Rams?
I don't know. And
I don't get it. They have the pieces.
Yeah.
They almost have a similar team they had last year, if not slightly better.
Yeah.
Getting Clay Matthews, acquiring Jalen Ramsey. They look like crap, though.
Yeah.
They look bad.
Something's wrong with them.
Todd Gurley's
Todd Gurley's definitely either hurt or something's up because he's not playing like he could. That offense isn't as sexy as it could. You know what? I think the tail is always oldest time in NFL. What happens is you're good at something, the league's going to figure it out eventually. Just like in all sports, pitchers that have certain pitches, their cutter is this way, and you pick it up after the first couple of months, maybe year. You got to keep it fresh. And I think the Rams' offense, whatever was clicking, ain't clicking no mo.
It's like the other team knows exactly what they're going to do.
Precisely.
Because Jared Goff had 2 interceptions I saw in the last game against you guys.
Pittsburgh Steel Curtain. Now, granted, I can barely name any of their offensive weapons because even James Conner, he ain't playing either.
Juju Smith-Schuster really hasn't been a target.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing much. He's been doing his mediocre, but he had a couple games where he had 5 for 100 and a touchdown and 7 for 75. But for the most part, it's been like 3 for 40. And he's had to use other weapons. And they've been eking out some tough wins. They beat the Colts. But I think the Colts had a backup in. I'm not sure at that time. Anywho, it's exciting. Good positivity. You know, it was a garbage, awful looking year. With you had Le'Veon Bell leave. You had the Antonio Brown drama, and he left. Yeah, I like that. And Ben Roethlisberger going down early didn't look good. Just didn't look good. And you thought the season was done, especially when you won't go 1-4. It just hurts. It smells. It stinks. But then, 4 straight wins. All of a sudden, we're back in it. 5-4, baby.
Hey, it's amazing. You know,
That's the NFL for you.
that is the NFL for you.
Other amazing thing. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was about to say, you guys are doing good. My guys are still crapping the bed each night. Pat Shermer needs to go.
Hey, if you don't win in New York, it's a lot of extra pressure. Just saying.
2-8.
Ugh.
Unacceptable.
Is it that bad? 2-8.
Yes.
Tanking for Tua. 2-8 ain't gonna be good enough though, because there's teams like the Bengals in the league.
Ooh,
Can't be as bad as them.
And the Dolphins.
And the Jets.
And
Who you lost to? Yeah. Just saying. Other interesting things that happened in the NFL. The Saints got murdered by the Falcons.
what? The 1-7 Falcons?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Now, this happens in the NFL. You know, it's big boys, grown men, professional athletes going out there every Sunday. And you like to think that some teams don't take a week off. But if you're the Saints and you're rolling, you had your backup, Teddy Bridgewater, come in and do awesome things.
It was perfect, I think.
Yeah, and then I think maybe he had one loss.
If not one loss, but anyway.
But he was great. He was like 5-1 or something like that. Then Drew Brees comes back. They're even better, you think. You don't suspect something like this. The Falcons, who are just falling apart.
Yeah, this is my look, by the way. It seems like the Falcons, ever since they blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl,
Which I enjoyed, by the way. That was probably the last time I gambled because it was been a long time, and that was one of the most exciting second halves to watch. And when James White crossed the finish, and also I remember it being one of those games where it was like a 3.5 point cover, so a field goal would have done nothing for the OT, and they ended up needing a touchdown in OT. And when James White crossed in the OT, oh my God, what a comeback by the Patriots!
Still an awesome comeback to this day.
Crazy catch made by that other white guy they got.
Julian Edelman?
Yeah, that guy. There's always a bunch of white guys on the team, but they do well, and they do things. And football is football, and things like that will happen. Great comebacks will happen. Good teams will lose at times. I don't think we need to worry about the Saints.
No, and then there's surprises like the game we're watching right now. The San Francisco 49ers are still perfect on the season.
They're 8-0. Unbelievable.
And they're up 10-0.
Yeah, they're beating the old Hawks of the Sea. I still think once our boy Russell Wilson, who I respect, and you said off camera,
I respect him.
I respect that man. Consummate professional.
There's a
Great
smoothness
athlete
that he brings to the Seahawks that it seems like everybody wants to play for Russell Wilson.
Absolutely. And not only is he married to Sierra.
Oh, yeah.
He is smooth on and off the field. I will say he is smooth in the pocket. He is that guy who really extends plays by rotating, running around.
He's also a very little guy, too, so he adds a little quickness
Yes, he is.
to his game.
And I will say, the game of football with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, showing us that it can be a running quarterback's league.
He may be a MVP, by the way, Mr. Lamar Jackson.
And it's between Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, did you see that touchdown he had yesterday? He did like a 360 against a defender and literally
I saw him spin somebody out.
And not to mention, they also destroyed the Bengals like 49-13.
It is the Bengals.
It is the Bengals.
But I digress.
Yes.
I will say Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson are. That's Russell Wilson. I think is a perfect. Now nobody's going to be an athlete like Lamar. I mean, maybe a couple more will come along and eventually, but Lamar Jackson is doing things like they ran the triple option yesterday in the NFL.
Oh, yes.
They ran the triple option, and you got their backup quarterback being RG3, who is a perfect backup quarterback for them, by the way.
Of course.
Because you worry about Lamar getting injured, the amount of hits he's going to take. But he did run the ball. I remember that he ran the ball about 20 times a game last year. This year he's averaging 10 to 12. So that's smart. Pick your battles when to run him.
So he's not running. So he's running a lot less than he did last year.
Yeah, but he's still getting the yards, and he's scrambling and extending plays.
He's getting like 100 yards.
But you couldn't foresee rushing him 20 times a game and have that not turn into an injury eventually. It's a smart thing to do. Have him go about 10 times a game. But still, it's working. Russell Wilson is that guy who maybe he doesn't have the speed to necessarily do that, but he uses his quickness in the pocket and out of the pocket, rolling out, to extend those plays, and you can't hate the guy. You just can't hate Russell Wilson.
No, especially
you can fear him, but you can't hate him.
Also, when he has a target like Tyler Lockett, who is just nothing but exciting.
And my boy DJ Metcalf.
Oh yeah, he's.
Remember, I was hyping him. I was hyping him before the season started. I saw some highlights of him at, I think it was Ole Miss where he went, but
that sounds about right.
They had a special on him, and he got so emotional when he got drafted in whatever round it was. I love that. His dream was coming true. And you don't see that in players very often. You don't see these guys break down and show you their non-warrior side, their more sensitive side. And to any true warrior, I believe, they are warrior of the body and mind and heart. And I feel like watching him cry and get his dream come true, he's someone very aware of the moment and aware of the greatness of what he's got ahead of him. And he's been great. He's been a great weapon for Russell Wilson. So
he's also jacked beyond belief. I remember
he is so jacked.
I saw a photo of him. It's like with him, like two other guys. I'm like, is this human?
Yeah, no, they are not human. Most football players are not human.
Definitely not. Especially if you're a line or working on the offensive or defensive line, you're like 300 pounds.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we need you to be really strong and fast, but eat all of this.
Literally just
be as big as
literally
possible.
just eat like the biggest pile of like pastrami sandwiches, and then you'll be good to go.
Pastrami sandwiches.
Because okay, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
One that came to my mind was egg rolls, like Asian food. I just pictured tons of Asian food. I don't know why.
Well, pastrami is high on calories and it's delicious.
Look at James being a little food person. He's like, yes, pastrami. Pastrami on rye with a little mustard.
With a little sauerkraut and a little Thousand Island dressing and
ooh,
a Reuben. Here we go.
Reuben. That is delicious.
Reubens are my favorite sandwiches in the whole world.
I am getting hungry.
We just completely digress, courtesy of my appetite.
But we digress again and say football is back.
Still doing good.
Excited. Big stuff happening.
Yes.
You look at the Green Bay Packers, who actually have a little bit of a defense this year. They're exciting.
Aaron Rodgers looks pretty good.
You look at the Vikings, who are finding it again. And Kirk Cousins is, you like that? Some more often.
Yeah.
He's not apologizing anymore.
Nope.
But nonetheless, I will say, football all still, I think, goes through the Patriots.
Always.
I know they lost to the Ravens, and that was exciting.
That was their first actual real competition this year, though.
Yeah. And I will say this, however, you can't go against Bill Belichick a second time and think it's going to be that easy.
I've been going against Bill Belichick for like 5 times in the last like 10 years.
And look, I'll just say a side note, Russell Wilson just scrambled for like 13 yards.
Look at that!
To give themselves a reasonable 3rd and 3.
Look at that!
4th and 90. But I will say this, the Patriots, you beat them once, shame on you. Or whatever I'm trying to say.
Beat them twice, shame on.
I don't know, shame on myself for even trying to say that statement.
Can't get fooled again. I was thinking that, what was that J. Cole song? I forgot that. It was like Role Models. There was like a little like George Bush thing like in the middle of it. But anyway, the point is.
I have no idea because my music knowledge basically is heavy metal and dubstep, and that's about it.
Really, my heavy metal.
I do like a little rap, I like Absol.
Really, mine is more Zeppelin, AC/DC,
You are
the Beatles.
You are the classics. You are the classic rock.
I am nothing but a classic human being, I guess.
You are classic. Like a classic car. Sleek, coiffed, ever playing.
And
on the radio.
And always ready to go.
Perfectly said. Now, with that said, football, some excitement. Patriots, look out. Chiefs.
That was a tough loss. That was a tough loss.
You just lost to the Titans. You made Ryan Tannehill look like a friggin' all-star.
Yeah, that was also probably the best game like I've seen in a while too.
And you know what I will say is the offense, no question, is still there. Their offense is great for the Chiefs. But good God, do something about your defense. You need to stop. You think you're going to stop
See, that's one thing I've been
anybody
learning.
good if you can't stop the friggin' Titans?
That's one thing I've been learning in sports. They're good at one thing, but they're not good at the other thing. There's not a lot of complete teams, I've realized.
Well said. And definitely the Chiefs are one of those who have needed that defense to step up. Last year, they were in a shootout with the Patriots, and they did lose that shootout. What was that, like 45-41, something like that?
Oh, the AFC Championship game?
Yeah.
It was like 37, like 31, and it's like, and also the Chiefs got got robbed on a couple of bad calls.
Oh,
from what
yeah.
I remember, too.
I remember that. And no other call was worse than the call against the Saints.
Oh, my goodness. You mean the call that New Orleans Saints are probably still upset about?
Yes, they have some things to forget because their year is going on smooth.
You do realize there's like a day in New Orleans, definitely on Bourbon Street, where they marked Hate the NFL Refs Day just for that one call.
Oh, yeah. And also because they're also Bourbon Street is Bourbon Street, and it's you don't forget when you go there. Or you do forget because you drink a lot of alcohol.
Well, there's a reason why it's called Bourbon Street. That's probably where they went after that game because they drank so much bourbon.
There's no other way to get through that but pain-relieving alcohol. But you have a chance this year to forget. And I will say one thing that's been bugging me a lot has been the NFL calls. The new idea that you can challenge like an offensive pass interference. And the fact that it's being challenged at the right times, but the NFL is like too arrogant to overturn some of these calls that are blatantly wrong. It's like this call was so bad, but no, we can't change that.
How about that call, what was it, earlier in this game that we're watching, what was it, a pass interference?
Pass interference call.
Wait, it was this.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
now,
that's not pass interference.
Yeah.
Like, kiss my ass, get out of here.
And we get it, ref. Like, sometimes you don't have line of sight, but don't do the thing where you're assuming contact or assuming anything. If you see hands on a guy, I get it. But make sure you see the hand grip the jersey or see something that make you blow that whistle. I don't like when refs are too involved in games. And that was one thing. I'll bring this back to college football. It was a pleasant watch to watch the Minnesota Golden Gophers face Penn State Nittany Lions in Minnesota. It was pleasant because there was not a single flag thrown for like 2 quarters. It was football, baby.
I wish I was able to see that game.
And not that they let people, not that it was one of those games where they let them play a little bit. And yeah, it was a great game to watch.
I know. I had other things that we will talk about a little bit later.
It was a 12 o'clock start, so it was great. You had that, and then right after you had 3:30, you had LSU at Bama. Woo! What a day for college football.
Probably the most anticipated college football game of the year, most likely.
Yeah. And now, before I say that, I will say, Minnesota, you deserve your props. You had the lead the whole way through. You held it.
You're ranked 17.
You're ranked 17, which is like no respect. Granted, you hadn't played anybody really that good.
Until number 4 Penn State decided to come into town, and then...
hey, they sent them home packing. It's like, guess what? Golden Gophers, you got to give them respect. Where do you rank them now? They just beat the number 4 team. It's almost as if
they got to go up a little bit.
You get a little bit. They almost got to be in the top 4. Like, by statistics, you say... oh, they have a strength of schedule, they don't have a good win. That's the good win. Yes, they're at home, they're amped up. But nonetheless, I think Minnesota's future is set because they have, I think there was Iowa coming, Wisconsin coming. They have a couple more big games to prove themselves. And I think they have a game against Ohio State, too.
That's a good start, though, what they got against.
But a great start.
Do you think this is what Penn State fans, after the game, they're like, we are Penn State with the
We are Penn State. We are getting kicked out of the top 4. We are!
Got defeated by Minnesota.
But we say, nonetheless, LSU, Bama, what a game.
That was also a great game. 2 undefeated teams at one point.
Yes. And nonetheless, we say, what was that, Tua, on that opening? I swear to God, it was the invisible fumble. It was a huge 14-point swing. Bama's driving down the field right away. It's like, all right, here we go. Offensive game.
Yep.
And Tua fumbles out of nowhere.
First of all, it looked like a clear touchdown.
Yeah.
If he went into the end zone, but it literally looked like...
well, he wasn't gonna score on that play, but on that drive, they were going to score.
On that drive, I meant. Okay.
But he had, like you said, he had the ball tucked too.
It looked like he just lost control of it.
It just squirted out of his arm. It was weird.
Was that on SportsCenter's not top 10 plays?
Probably.
That definitely has to be like number. That has to be like number 2
because it set the tone. It was like, and then for the rest of the game, and LSU in that first half was punching them in the throat. And right before halftime, you're down 13 points. They have 24 seconds on the clock, and Bama and Tua tries to go the length of the field in 20 seconds. And what do? They throw an interception. Ball comes back. Now it's in Bama territory, and guess what? There's like 13 seconds, and guess what happens? They give up another touchdown. There was a huge 14-point swing right before the half and a huge 14-point swing right to start the game because what would have been looking like a Bama touchdown, LSU marched down the whole field and took the 7-0 lead. And, man, didn't get any really closer for that until Bama did fight back in the second half. Najee Harris, beast.
This is what I missed.
It was a great game. And you thought the game was over. It was a 2-score game. There was like less than a minute left. And what does Tua do? He's a great deep ball thrower. Throws a bomb. And also, that is why we were saying off air that college is fun to watch sometimes, because there are more mistakes and it's exciting. But they were playing pressed up against the wide receiver.
Yeah.
When you're up 13 points in less than a minute, back off, let everything stay underneath you, don't make a mistake over the top. And the guy got behind him, and the guy scored it was like a video game touchdown. Like, what do? Hail Mary? And he caught the Hail Mary. They scored. So it was back to a 1-score game, and it was another realistic nail-biter. But either way, LSU punching thunder down Bama's throat. Roll Tide? No.
No tide.
No tide. It's low tide.
Low tide and get out.
LSU, who I like. I've always been a fan of LSU. But ancient are the days of the 9-6 Alabama LSU game. Joe Burrow and Tua, that was an offensive showdown, and both of them combined threw for over 700 yards passing. Najee Harris and Hilaire Claire, or I don't know how to pronounce it, Hilaire. I'm sorry for getting...
Hi, Lair. How are you?
Sorry for getting your last name wrong, but the short but stocky running back for LSU, stud. Catching everything out of the backfield. Najee Harris, like I said, great guys. Great game. And, that was a great episode, I have to say.
There was a lot of information to talk to those. A lot of information getting scorched down our throat.
Repeat the sentence you just said, because it was kind of funny.
A lot of information getting scorched down our throat.
Scorched? I like it. Scorched, shoved, pressed. Either way, we're coming at you down your throat. We want you guys to hit us up on social media. Where can they find us, James?
You can find us on Twitter at Life Pinstripes, Instagram Life in Pinstripes, audio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere practically.
Find us. We're out there. We appreciate you listening. It's been a great episode.
Comment us, even if you call us snowflakes again.
Yes, remember that? You called us snowflakes and we gave you a little fame. So hit us up either for the good or bad. We always want to get better.
Of course.
Thanks for listening, and it's been a great episode. And never forget to
rock and or roll.
That was good, buddy. That was great. That was very.
I just realized we also forgot it.
But that's why I tried to switch it back. Oh, we didn't even talk about our life stuff.